Hello, welcome to today's video diary for Finding My Way with Pi, Purpose, Intention, and Emotion. I am Pi, and the emotion we're going to talk about today is anger. Woo, did we hit another layer of emotional healing today. And it makes sense because the way it came up is that, hubby and I have taken a look at finances now that we're down to a one income household as a result of my decision to leave my corporate career. Now, this situation is not permanent. It is a transition and an evolution. And I and we are doing the steps necessary individually and for our family and together and, planning and communicating and working through the process and all of that. At the same time, we are still beginning to feel the impact of going down to a one income household. So everything is fine, and at the same time, that it's going to take more effort here. We're going to have to cut some things there. Frustration and inconvenience and juggling and whatever you want to call it. If any of you out there have ever had to tightly manage finances, then you know what I'm talking about. Now, this space is familiar to hubby and I. Both of us came from fairly humble beginnings. We jokingly say, we started at zero and went out and made our way. And we did. And got to a point through decades of hard work where I would say we lived a life of ease and convenience and abundance. I'm saying that as an acknowledgement of the hard work that we put in, and it was not easy to get there. A lot of it was quite fulfilling, and at least for me, until towards the end. So here's where we get back to anger. So just had a situation today where I had to consciously cut back on something, and it impacted my kid. Now, my kids, they're cared for, they're provided for. Like, we are not in any danger, any risk. This is just a temporary, we're cutting back while we get through this transition, and then, we'll be back where we are. But we're to teach them through that process. We've been through this before. We know how to do this. We are pros at this. And, but they haven't necessarily been through it. And that is, a blessing in a way that I feel blessed. As a parent, you always want your kids to do better than you. And I feel like I have honored my parents by going out and doing good, right? Doing good in the world, being a good citizen, being self-sufficient, and, hopefully teaching my kids to do that, and realizing, though, that they've, not had as humble of beginnings as I did, because I was able to provide for them differently. But now they're starting to experience some humbleness. Not a bad thing for them, but what it triggered in me today, that part of it with my kids, fine. That's okay with me. I want to teach them through this process and lead them through this process. And we're going to go through this experience together. And it will be good for them in their lives. But the part that triggered me was that what led up to this decision for me was wholly unnecessary on the part of the corporation that I worked for. what I mean is that I guess I started feeling righteously angry that the focus is so heavily in some of these huge, corporate businesses, so heavily on profit at the expense of the well-being of their people, that it didn't have to be a 2-decade career just done and gone out in flames and burnout. It didn't have to be that. But that's the way of that business model. It's churn and burn. And that makes me angry because I'm studying what conscious business and conscious capitalism and, whole being organizations can and should be. That the original purpose of business was really to do good and to do well, that it's there to serve a value and a purpose in the community and to better lives of its employees, of its clients, of its stakeholders. It is the glue that holds the system together. And there are some businesses that operate with such a focus on short-term profit and looking at very specific percentages. Maybe they've been in business for a while, but over time, if that is the only thing that you're focused on, you will churn and burn people, and you will become a business of mediocrity and profit, and that's it. And people will be so burnt that they're just husks and shells of themselves, and at that point they're staying because they're afraid. And if they're afraid to leave, they're afraid to leave the income, they're afraid to put their family at risk, leave the stability, etc. And maybe there are a few, maybe in the business, that don't feel that way and are thriving. And in my experience, if that is the goal and that's the trickle down from the top down of the business, then there's probably not that many that feel like this is amazing. I'm probably few at the top. I don't know. But what I am saying, if you look at the other side of that, a whole being organization, are profits important? Yes. Okay. The business has to stay afloat or it does no one any good, right? However, if the business is organized around whole being of people, like people are human, not machines. People need time to connect with meaning in what they're doing, to build relationships, to learn, to make sure that they're not stuck at a desk all day. Have you heard that sitting is the new smoking? That's how bad it is for our health. So we need to have physical health and we need to have emotional health. We should be listening to the emotions of the business. They teach us something and are a barometer. They help keep us on track. And we should be caring about the well-being of the stakeholders, vendors, suppliers, clients, everyone. We should be caring about those things. There is a way to do this. There are businesses out there that do this. I don't really see a ton of examples of publicly traded businesses that do this, because once you get into the publicly traded arena, it's all about squeezing the profit, and then all the decisions about the business become short-term instead of being in it for the long game. So Simon Sinek talks about this in the Infinite Game, and businesses that are in it for the long game are going to approach this doing business and operating as whole being, and they will create these cultures and these systems of business in which people thrive. And when people thrive, they do good in the business can grow. They go home to their families and they're not empty husks, but they're there and participating and engaged. It is this positive outward ripple effect and lifts everyone up. Why isn't that the focus? And this is where my righteous anger came back to, that I got to the point where I had to make that decision because I was in a business that gave some perks and some benefits. Oh, we have an employee assistance program. Awesome. Thanks. I used that actually. And what I learned when I used that was that I needed to leave the business because this system churns and burns and it is not there for health. And then I just felt the anger today of 20 something years of giving my heart and soul and effort to something like that. And at the end of the day, it's like whoever they is, I can't even pinpoint one person, but that system didn't care. That is hard. So I'm processing that emotion. I'm sure I'll have more on this for the next couple of days, but that's what I'm thinking about today. Thanks for being with me on this journey. Got some background noise here for just a second. I think one of the kids is coming home. But hopefully that didn't rile anybody up too much or trigger any PTSD for anybody else. But that is what I am thinking about today and processing through. And thanks for sticking with me through this part of the journey, and we will see what tomorrow brings and what insights it brings. Hopefully I'll be able to get this out of my system and let this go and continue focusing on moving forward. But I just had to say righteous anger can teach us something. Wonder what small seed this is and how it will ripple out in the world for me. I would love to create a whole being business that does good for its people and its stakeholders and does well as well. To use the words of my professor, businesses that do good and do well. That is the function of business. One day. All right. For real. Thanks for being with me on this journey. I'm glad that you're here. And I hope it helps you too. Righteously angry tonight, signing off. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.